All right, let's talk about something that's gone from science fiction to a very real boardroom headache: model theft. Your company's most valuable AI assets. They're basically the new crown jewels. And trust me, they are being targeted. So today, we're going to dive into how these digital heists go down and, more importantly, how you can build a fortress to protect your own. Now, just so you know where we're at, this is part 7 of our 10-part series on AI security. Everything we're talking about today is an overview, and it's based on a super detailed report from Virtualization Options LLC. So if you want to go way, way deeper, that report is where you'll find all the nitty-gritty details.
So, what's the big deal here? Why all the fuss? Well, as the report points out, we are not just talking about lines of code. You really have to think of these AI models as the new crown jewels for a company. I mean, they represent huge, huge investments, and they're often the secret sauce, the engine that gives a business its competitive edge.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down today. First, we'll really nail down why these models are the crown jewels. Then, we'll get into the juicy part, the modern heist, how these things actually get stolen. After that, we'll talk about spotting the bad guys, what to do if the worst happens, and then wrap up with the most important piece of the puzzle: building that fortress so it never happens in the first place.
All right, let's kick things off with AI's crown jewels. It's pretty simple. The incredible value packed into these models is exactly what makes them such a prime target. And we're not just talking about the training data. No, it's the unique IP, the secret recipe, the kind of thing that can literally reshape an entire industry.
And look, this is not some what-if scenario. The report makes it crystal clear. There are real adversaries out there right now trying to get their hands on this stuff. You've got your direct competitors who want a shortcut. You've got nation-states playing the long game of economic espionage. And of course, you have cybercriminal gangs who see a brand new, super valuable asset they can hold for a massive payday. Okay, on to our next section, the modern heist. And you really have to forget everything you've seen in the movies. This isn't about rappelling from the ceiling. Stealing an AI model is a seriously sophisticated game with all sorts of clever and often very quiet ways to get in. The report breaks it down into 5 main attack vectors. First, you've got these clever API query attacks. We'll get into that in a second. Then there's the classic insider threat. Of course, ransomware is on the list. There's also something called model inversion, another sneaky one. And finally, you have the big guns: nation-state espionage, going after that critical IP. Okay, these API query attacks are just, wow, they're clever. Think about this. The attacker never even has to break into your network. They just use your public-facing API, hammering it with questions over and over again. And they use all those answers to train their own knockoff model. It's wild. They're basically stealing the magic of your model without ever seeing a single line of your code. And then you have the more, let's say, smash and grab approach: ransomware. This is way more direct. The criminal groups have woken up to how valuable these models are. So they'll bust in, encrypt, or just plain steal your models and data, and then send you the ransom note. I mean, if your whole business runs on that AI, a threat like this isn't just bad, it's potentially game over. So this all begs a really tough question, right? How would you even know this is happening while it's in progress? Spotting these intruders is our next topic, and believe me, it can feel like looking for a needle in a haystack. This is such a great way to see the problem. At a quick glance, normal traffic and an attack can look kind of similar, but when you dig in, the patterns are totally different. A real user, they're there for a specific reason, but an attacker trying to steal your model, their activity looks more like a science experiment gone wild. They're systematically poking and prodding every single corner of your model, way faster than any human ever could. So let's say you think your model's been stolen. How do you prove it's yours? This is where a cool technique like watermarking comes into play. It's basically like a hidden signature from an artist. You embed this tiny, unique pattern right into the model itself. It's totally invisible, doesn't mess with performance at all. But if that model ever pops up somewhere else, boom, you've got undeniable proof that it's your IP. Okay, but what if the worst happens? You've found a breach. This is where you absolutely cannot afford to panic. You need a plan, and that's what our next section is all about: your remediation playbook, the step-by-step guide you need ready before you ever need it. When this happens, you have to move fast. Number 1, cut off all access. Slam the door shut immediately. Then you start reinforcing your walls, beefing up your API protection. At the same time, you get the legal and forensics teams on the phone to figure out just how bad the damage is. You start actively hunting for your stolen property, using those watermarks we just talked about. And finally, you have to think about making that stolen model worthless by rolling out a newer, better version. And all of that leads us right here to what is honestly the most important part of this whole conversation: building the fortress. Because let's be real, the best disaster plan is the one you never ever have to use. It's all about being proactive. The key idea here is something called defense in depth. It's simple, really. You wouldn't protect the crown jewels with just one flimsy wall, right? No way. A real fortress has a moat, it has high walls, it has watchtowers, it has layers. And it's the exact same idea in cybersecurity. You need multiple, different layers of security. So, pillar number one of that fortress is encryption. This is your foundation. It means whether your model is just sitting on a server or flying across the network, it's scrambled. So even if an attacker manages to grab the file, all they get is a bunch of useless, unreadable gibberish.
Pillar number 2, strict access control. This is all about who gets the keys to the kingdom. You have to live by the rule of least privilege. That means people only get access to the absolute bare minimum they need to do their job and nothing more. And every single door needs to be guarded by multi-factor authentication. There are 0 exceptions to that rule.
All right, and pillar number 3 is the really advanced stuff: secure hosting. We're talking about things like secure enclaves or trusted execution environments. The best way to think about this is it's like putting your crown jewels in a special locked box that stays locked even while you're using them. It's a whole other level of protection, keeping the model safe from, well, pretty much everyone, even a system admin with the highest privileges. So that really brings us full circle. Look, model theft is a very real, and it's a growing threat, no doubt about it. But here's the good news: it's not unstoppable. The tools, the strategies, everything you need to build a really strong defense, it's all out there right now. So really, it just comes down to one final question you have to ask yourself. Your AI models are your future, so is your fortress ready?